Hello, everyone. Welcome to my official tier list on ranking the current existing Fossil Fighters games. As you know, I tend to be a bit of a, a bit knowledgeable of the franchise and what state the entries have been, and I figured, with the current trend of tier lists going around, I figured what better time to rank them all than right now. So we're going to start off with the first Fossil Fighters game. This is an interesting case because it's the first one, and it has to be able to hold its own against the rest in the franchise. And I think it does so very competently, very well. It pretty much feels like an N64 game that can be like taken and moved around anywhere in the world. It's completely mobile because it was on the DS, and I know it doesn't seem like a lot now because like the 3DS probably has like computing power that can rival that of the freaking GameCube, but at the time when the DS was still fairly new, this was a very impressive piece of graphical capability. And I know, like, literally, Super Mario 64 DS is a remake of a 64 game for the DS and had even better graphics. That was more necessarily like to show off the graphics, and it was made by Nintendo directly. This is not exact. Fossil Fighters isn't exactly first party. It's more, I would argue, second party. Um, so the fact that they made it look that good in whatever time they spent to make it is impressive in its own right, especially with the hardware it had to deal with. On top of that, it had an amazing story, lovable characters, compelling gameplay, not too deep, but not too mindless either. And it is because of this reason that I am going to put Fossil Fighters in the S tier. It is that good. Now, the next one up is Fossil Fighters Champions. This is the direct sequel to Fossil Fighters, and I believe that this game also holds its own fairly competently. Um, it has some pros and cons to its predecessor, and I personally believe that uh, there's an equal amount to determine when it comes to uh, their uh, strengths and weaknesses. So for starters, graphically, it's way more amped up. Not everything looks like a jagged piece of glass. Uh, you could argue that took away some charm, but I would argue that it still follows the same artistic design and style as the last game. It just looks more graphically impressive. On top of that, they have revamped the gameplay mechanics to an impressive degree. Just the way battles are planned around. There's a lot more strategy, a lot more thinking involved when it comes to every single battle that you can partake in. And strategy is definitely the key word for this game, and that's what makes it so damn good. Plus, adding more dinosaurs to deal with and having a giant whale uvula with barnacles as a boss was a very nice touch. Um, I personally found the story to be a little worse. Not necessarily bad. It was still a very competent and well written story, but compared to the last story, which featured various amounts of sci fi elements, small suspensions of disbelief, and only one instance of having to deal with some voodoo cult, uh, there wasn't really much in terms of heavy emphasis on magic, but that seems to have been the complete opposite for the sequel. I don't know what the line of reasoning for that change was. It felt a little more cartoony and less immersive, in my opinion, but that isn't necessarily that doesn't necessarily make it a bad game. It doesn't make it a bad story. It just makes it a different story, and I tend to gravitate towards uh, the previous game's story, personally. And with that in mind, I feel that uh, the pros and cons tend to equalize each other when it comes to the first title. So it is because of that reason that I am deciding to put it right up with the original in S tier. It is also that goddamn great. They're both just amazing titles in general. And then Fossil Fighters Frontier can go in F tier. Thank you all so much for watching. Please remember to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, hit the bell, leave a comment, and make sure that you follow me for more funny memes and hilarious hijinks. Thanks again.